This is a part of a course where we learn Godot by making a 2D game, a vampire survival clone with a scalable architecture. Press like if it's been useful. In this part, we will make a small update for enemy spawn and add collectibles drop when we slay an enemy. In previous part, we created this nice enemy and you created 2 more, or how many, whatever you want, but you manage the HP, movement, speed on your own. But there is one more thing we should manage here, the size. Because when we spawn our enemy, we need to make the proper margin. I mean, use the proper, but we should pre-calculate it. Because when we have our viewport, here is like our enemy scene, and it spawns with its center on our viewport edge. And we use margin, so the enemy spawn outside, we don't see it. We have the fade in animation, but anyway, it will spawn using the margin and come to our viewport, moving toward the player. So the tricky part is what margin we should use for each enemy, where we should get it. Well, that's pretty much simple. If your enemies are the square size, I mean, they could be any shape, but if you can fit them in the square, like they have symmetry, you just take the square edge size, that's it. If you use any other shape, like you have, I don't know, sprites like rects, in this case, take the bigger one. Why? Well, if you, let's say, have this type of shape, here's our enemy sprite, and you will use like this one. Well, it will work properly as a margin for spawning from above or at the bottom, but if you spawn from the side, if you rotate this one, I can rotate it, so let's say it's something like this in horizontal position. Okay, maybe a bit more. So if you can, as you can see, if you will use the size for the horizontal spawn, like from the sides, the margin will be wrong. So not here, but here. Here's the used margin, and our enemy will be partially on the screen, and it could cause an issues. Yeah, again, we have the fade-in animation, but we want them to spawn outside and go in the viewport. So you just take the bigger size, always the bigger edge size, and don't forget to multiply it by your scale, because your enemies could be scaled in the scene or they could be scaled at the spawn time, so always multiply by the scale, and they will all always properly be placed on the spawn. So in the code it will look like this. We have right now pre-calculated margins, so the values are already they're ready for usage. We don't need to calculate them each time we spawn the enemy, but it will work only if you don't change the scale. If you change the scale, you also will need to recalculate them each time, because with different scale there will be different margin. This way works faster, but again, it's only because I don't want to change scale of my enemies. I want this guy to be the smallest one, this a bit bigger, and this also a bit bigger. So the bigger they go, the slower they are. This is my vision. In your case, you could calculate everything at runtime, and instead of setting position by just getting random pos at the spawn pass and passing pre-calculated margin, you will do something like this. You will need to get the sprite from the enemy scene. You can do it like this, or better just add in the enemy script already and reference like this to read it. But for my example, I will keep everything in the code. So you need to get the sprite reference, then you need to get direct its position and sizes. Read the sizes from there and get the bigger size from X and Y, and then multiply by the sprite scale. I use X because, again, in my scale, both equal for X and Y. If you get not equal, like here 0.25, and let's say here 0.5, like this, well, you again will need to use max function to get bigger one from scale X and scale Y. That's how it will look like. It's cheap, so pre-calculated are faster because know this mass, but again, this is very fast, very cheap. But if you're gonna spawn a lot of enemies, really a lot, this could show up in your performance. And one more tiny thing, you need to adjust properly the visible on-screen modifier rect. And yeah, it's a rect. So if you use circle-shaped enemies like I do, you could be a bit confused. So what you should do it like this, and from this point the enemy will be considered visible, but also with this part too, even if there is no actual sprite. But if you see this, the game will think that it's not on the screen. Or you should place everything inside. Well, my opinion, my advice for you, better a bit scale it down. So when at least this part of the body is actually on the screen, not just some tiny pixel and we're trying to shoot it, but we actually just see it for a microsecond. But when we see at least this part, we're trying to shoot this enemy. So this is my advice. Yeah, you also could try to shoot when this part is visible, but we actually don't see anything. But it's pretty small. So scale it down. And for enemies with not ordinary shapes like this one, like I have here, part here, here, I just picked to ignore these parts. I don't want to spawn more colliders for these parts. If here will be a projectile, I just will consider it as miss. So the body starts here. And so you can see here, those parts I just ignore. And don't try to overthink this. Just test. Give someone to play. If he won't tell you, hey, it's so odd that my projectiles always shoot through these few pixels and they doesn't hit, it's so annoying. If they doesn't say anything to you, it means that player doesn't notice this thing because most of the body is covered. So it works just fine. But yeah, if your bodies are big and you need to cover everything, you will have to spawn multiple shapes to cover each of your parts. But always remember, more collider shapes you got, the more it impacts the performance, because Godot need to check them all. Okay, now we could try this to check our spawn enemies, but I want to spawn not just the first one. I want to spawn and to check all of them. So in our enemy spawn test script, when the button is pressed, we used only enemy name from enemy names, only enemy one. Let's change it to an array. And just let's use here all of our enemies, enemy 2, enemy 3, and pick random. So we pass a random one from this array, a random. And let's try it. Now there will be a random enemy spawn. Don't see them. Very interesting. Okay, I just forget in my enemy scenes to add to each one the move to player behavior. If you forget it too, just add this node and configure it. And also don't forget to register all of your enemy scenes to asset register. And now if we run our test scene again, we'll see all of our enemies with different sizes, but all of them were spawned outside of the viewport as they should. You could notice that in my spawn scene, I'm shooting the enemies and they drop the collectibles, XP shards and maybe some other stuff. So let's do it. We need first, in our gameplay handlers, gameplay event handlers, we need to update our init function. This one, on init ready. We already handled the player, but you need to add now this part. If we spawn an enemy, we will call this function. It's a new function where we get the enemy and just listen to live component if it changed and pass their additional parameter. So we call bind enemy. And this function will get actual signal parameters about change. It's alive and we bind, so we passed one additional parameter, the enemy itself. And if it's not alive, we need to emit in event bus that enemy died and pass the enemy and clear the enemy. And this is an important part. You could try to free, to clear, to remove your enemies inside themselves in their script. If they're dead, just kill them and that's it. Yeah, you could, but better do not, because in almost all of the games you need to perform some actions with the enemy, like pass it somewhere, read some data from it and so on. And only after that you need to clear it from your game. You could disable it, hide it, but the clear, the free, should be somewhere in the place where you want to perform any actions on it if it's dead, like we do. Then we want to spawn a consumable. So we will add a new script in a moment, helpers, with a function where we can pass array of possible items we want to get a random one from. It's a consumables drop array. We'll add it right now. And also we need to say to pass the weights, like percentage for each item, the item drop chance. And when we get the consumable, we want to spawn it. So we will create a new function spawn asset in the spawner, pass there the consumable key, which consumable we got here, and we will spawn it at enemy global position. And then we need to give our player some XP for killing the enemy. And we will also need a dictionary where we will keep how much XP we will give to the player for each kill. Okay, now let's create the helpers. Helpers is a separate script where we will keep all our helper functions, like find something in the array, or like here I need to pick a random one, but with the weights. So under script score, create a helper script, and here is the function. We again pass array of items we want to get one random from, and pass the weights, which are drop chances. There could be any non-negative numbers like 1, 2, 3, and their amount should be equal to the items. So you should have 3 items like XP small, XP medium, maybe XP big. And in this case, XP small have chances. We got here in total 6. So XP small chance are 1, 6. For XP med, 2, 6. And for XP big, 3, 6. You could use any numbers, but again, their amount should just match the amount of items, and they should be non-negative. And in total, there we should more than 0. That's it. I use trying to use in total like 100, so it's easier to understand the actual drop chances. Like if here 10, 20, so everything that's last is 70. That's it. The function is pretty easy, but I use static, so I don't create an instance of the script. I just call helpers by class name and call needed function in my scripts. You can see it here. Next, let's move to our event bus. We need to emit the player died, but we don't have this signal yet. So add this one, enemy died, and we will pass the enemy scene itself. Next, open the session data in our gameplay. And here we need first, consumables drop option key. These are the keys from asset register. So we can, by these keys, read the actual asset to instantiate it in our game. And consumable drop option weights. In my case, heal drop is 10%, XP small 60, and XP med just 30. And also how much our player gain XP per each kill. This one. And this is a dictionary where we got the enemies by name and each enemy, how much experience it gives to us for the kill. Well, why we keep this in the session data? Why here? Because this one is exactly for the session. We run the level 1, level 3, level 5, and this is the data for the level, which can be changed at the level initiating. If you want to change which consumables can be dropped, you will just remove or add in this array some new. If you want to change the drop chances or how much experience player get, you just mutate or overwrite those arrays and dictionaries in your level script when the level will be run. That's it. So each level could use a separate session data, or this one is a default and override the needed one stuff. Now let's move to the spawner and new function to spawn anything, but we already spawned before. Just spawn a set function. It will spawn some assets, some needed scenes. I use it to spawn anything besides the scenes that should have more manual control, like enemies and player need some initialization, updating, and so on. But for assets like consumables, we just need to get the asset from asset manager, instantiate it, add it to the scene, and change the position. So one function will cover them all of our consumables and other things that should be instantiated without any additional setup. And don't forget, in your asset register, you should add your consumables. In my case, there's 3: heal, XP, small and XP med. If you didn't add them to the register, go and do it right now. Now we are ready to test our things. We'll not create a new test scene because we already have the enemy spawn test, and this one is perfect to spawn enemies and also check they actually drop consumables. Just a few adjustments. In our player unit scene, under the ability manager, add sting spell. Just add this spell manually. We don't actually create the spell. We don't, register it to ability manager. We'll just instantiate the node. It will work. Don't forget, you need to adjust the parameters. How many damage, damage range, set something bigger to cover entire viewport projectiles one, and enable in cooldown timer. Well, if we set enable, it should start automatically. Also, there was a static dummy here. I removed it, don't need it anymore. And that's all. Now we can run our scene and check if our enemies actually will spawn any consumables. The teal one is medium. Yeah, my magnet just pulled it toward me. Teal one are XP medium shards, and the white one is the small shard. And yeah, we got some drops. Well, but eventually, when you're testing your game, you will get an error. Yeah, like this, because we giving experience for the kill, and when we reach a new level, it tries to call the ability pick to show us UI so we can pick new ability, but we didn't have this UI yet. I mean, we don't have it, we don't use it in this test scene. If you don't want to get this error, just go to dev app init, and we can add here a new export variable. Let's call it ignore kill XP. I will set it to false, or maybe I will set it to true. But in our array function, somewhere at the bottom, maybe here, if ignore kill XP, we need to get session data, global gameplay session data, this one, and just overwrite our values for the XP for kill, this 3-1. So let's go back and XP for kill. Well, if we try to just remove them all to override to empty dictionary, it could also give us an error. So let's try, because it will try to read by the enemy name. Yeah. So the right option will be to just copy all the keys and override them to 0. So we get XP, just amount of 0. And now there will be no error till you trying to test your consumables jobs. Just as one small improvement, with time your enemy's amount could grow, and you will need to, don't forget to copy again and again all the keys from the original one to your test scene if you need something to check. That could be annoying, so instead of doing this, we could actually improve it and just create a new dictionary. Don't forget to use the same type, or Godot will say no, and iterate over all of our current keys in the XP4KL dictionary and copy them to a new dictionary, same keys, but set the value as 0, and then grab this dictionary and override the existed one. That's what I was talking about when said any of your game levels could use session data or override it to its needs when it runs. That's what I meant. So now you won't get issue with a new level, because you won't get actual new level, at least if you don't grab XP shards. Also one small improvement. In our gameplay event handler, yeah, this one. When you see code like this, where all of your stuff or most of it should be in some if, you could simplify this a bit. Instead of wrapping everything in this if condition, you could reverse it. Well, this code should run if we are not alive. That means if we are alive, we do nothing. And if we are not, we'll perform all the sections. Why this approach is much more better? Well, when you wrap something in if, inside you could have some nested ifs, and so on, and your code will be complicated just because you wrap everything inside. But this removes one wrap level, and this improves clearness and readability of your code. Enjoy!